Hey, do you remember Spongebob Squarepants' Revenge of the Flying Dutchman? For a lot of you, I'm guessing the answer to that question is no, as this game came out in 2002. It's old enough to grab a beer and contemplate the existential dread that is adulthood. But as for me, I grew up with it, and I've always remembered this game very fondly. But why is it that nobody else seems to? Why is Revenge of the Flying Dutchman underrated? In order to answer that question, I decided to replay through the entire game, start to finish, with the critical eye of a cynical adult myself. But instead of hating it, I found my experience playing it to be positive. Nostalgia probably played some role in that, but even looking at the game as critically as I possibly could, I just couldn't find all that many faults with it. Don't get me wrong, the game has plenty of issues, which we will talk about, but none of them are really all that major, and didn't seriously affect my enjoyment of the game. So if all you want to know is whether or not I think this is a good game, then I'd say yes, this is a good game, and I'd encourage you to try it. But if you want to know why, then let's talk about it. Now, let's get this out of the way as soon as possible. Some people really like to harp on graphical quality, but I am not one of those people. Some will rage out if their game isn't 16K resolution, 1200 GHz, hyper, ultra photorealistic textures with simulated fluid dynamics water. And honestly, I think it's a bit silly. Pretty graphics are nice to look at, but beyond that, they don't actually affect my enjoyment of the game in any meaningful way. I can easily go from playing The Witcher 3 to playing Pokemon Yellow in the same day and have just as much fun with each of them.
How about you and me go find an island somewhere and make fishy lips?
So while yes, this game is 21 years old and its graphics aren't up to modern AAA standards, I don't at all factor that in as a negative because it genuinely doesn't bother me in the slightest. If anything, I actually find the look of this game to be quite charming. The models all look like the characters from the show. They are nice and clean and colorful, if not a little low resolution, but that's to be expected for a GameCube game. As far as I'm concerned though, I think the game looks really good. The only thing about it that can be a touch distracting is the wonky animations, which I do consider a bit of a negative, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not really sure what the animation team was thinking with these, but characters throughout the game will flail about in odd mannerisms, especially during some of the cutscenes. But again, this doesn't have any bearing on the actual gameplay. So while it's definitely not great by any means, these animations really aren't that big of a deal. Especially when you consider that the animations throughout the rest of the game are perfectly fine, and not over the top like these cutscene and dialogue animations are. The level design and set pieces are all really nice and feel like locations from the show. There's the obvious exception of the downtown in the game looking nothing like the downtown from the show, but I think it works here as it helps to distinguish it from the hub world. Adding to that, all the original voice cast are here playing their roles in the game, and the writing does a good job of representing each of them as who they are in the show, making the whole experience feel a lot like you're playing through an episode of SpongeBob. The music is also really pleasant, however there are some problems with the soundtrack, namely with mixing and looping. Whenever a character starts talking, the music cuts out completely, and afterwards it just restarts from the beginning rather than continuing where it stopped.
Never fear, Mermaid Man, for you are not alone in your fight against injustice.
The music also doesn't loop well, which can lead to a bit of an awkward transition at the end of a composition. George Oldsey composed the music, and it all sounds like music from the show, but unfortunately there are only 13 total songs in the game, and only 8 of those make up the background music, so you're going to be hearing a lot of the same songs over and over. What makes this problem worse is the fact that the music isn't tied to each stage, but rather to your outfit. See, a core mechanic of this game is changing your outfit to complete certain challenges. You have regular Spongebob, jellyfishing gear, Mermaid Man cosplay, the reef blower, and treasure hunting gear. Jellyfishing gear lets you catch jellyfish, the Mermaid Man outfit lets you throw water balls, the reef blower blows things, and the treasure hunting gear helps you to find hidden treasures. Each of these outfits has its own music, which I honestly don't think works very well. Not only does it make the music more repetitive, but you'll often be in a level listening to music that doesn't at all fit with where you are or what you're doing. For example, every single stage requires you to catch a certain amount of jellyfish, which means you'll not only have to hear the jellyfishing theme on every stage, but you will be predominantly hearing the jellyfishing theme on every single stage. Because of just how many jellyfish you have to catch. And it sucks, because it's not a bad theme. But when you have to constantly hear it over and over again the entire game, it starts to get old. I think the music should have been tied to stages rather than outfits, and luckily there are 2 stages which have their own music to them, regardless of what outfit you wear. Those being Chum World, and the Dutchman's Graveyard. Something else that I've seen people complain about as a negative is a particular mission in Jellyfish Fields, and I'll be honest, I never actually got stuck on this mission. Let me explain. For those of you who aren't aware, there is a mission in Jellyfish Fields where you are tasked with collecting 100 jellyfish to win a contest where you will be awarded the Reef Blower. The problem that people claim is that there isn't 100 jellyfish in Jellyfish Fields, so you end up collecting 84, and then you can't find any more, get stuck, and eventually give up. Here's the only problem with that. The mission literally tells you that the 100 jellyfish you need is the game total jellyfish. Rusty says it, your in-game to-do list, which you should be using, tells you that. When you pause the game to look at your to-do list, it says right there what your game totals are, and even if you somehow missed all of that, the pause menu also keeps track of your completion rate for a stage. So, once you've collected 84 jellyfish, it out and out says you have 100% of the jellyfish for this stage. I'm sorry, but you can't blame the game for this. How much more spoon-fed does it have to be? It's not even being cryptic about it. I did this when I was 5, but apparently there was an epidemic of Aaron Hansen's not reading basic instructions back in 2002.
You don't even have to use it. It just does it automatically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, welcome to fucking
Sailcloth.
Skyward Sword.
Story-wise, it's nothing crazy, but it does its job for setting up the core gameplay. Gary discovers a treasure chest and brings it to Spongebob, who opens it to find a bottle, gives it a little rub down, and it summons the Flying Dutchman. He says that anyone who discovers his chest and releases him must serve in his ghostly crew.
In the case of accidental discovery and wanton disruption of my booty, the perpetrators must serve for an eternity on my bloody crew.
And Spongebob absent-mindedly and in fear blabs that, technically speaking, Gary was the one who found him.
Hold on there, Mr. Dutchman, sir. Technically speaking, it was not me who found you. Gary's the one who dug you up.
The Dutchman then decides that he will take Gary instead, but gives him some time to say his farewells before taking him, leaving to go check on his treasures.
Oh, that's a relief. This little varmint looks like he can do 10 times the work. if he can survive my hypnotic spell.
Oh, no, not Gary. That's not what I meant. Take me, not him.
Too late! My decision is made. Now I've got to check on the treasure stashed back on my ship to make sure no one's been spreading that around. But I'll return shortly to pick up my new crewmate. Say your farewells before I return.
This then leads into the main gameplay loop, which is collecting letter tiles. Each one contains a piece of a map, which when assembled will lead you to one of the Dutchman's treasures. It's a collect-a-thon game. Some tiles can be collected by doing a little platforming, some require doing a puzzle, and others are gained by doing side quests. The controls are smooth and responsive, and it feels good to control SpongeBob in this game, especially the rolling. I don't know why, but I will never get bored of doing this. I don't have any complaints with the movement whatsoever. The letter tiles spell out the word SpongeBob, and once all have been collected in the stage, you get to do a little slide puzzle, which gives you an image of where the treasure chest is. These are all pretty straightforward, usually, and easy to find with one exception being Jellyfish Fields. This is quite possibly the least helpful image I have ever seen. Luckily though, you have a dowsing rod, and you can use it with your treasure hunting gear. When you point it in the right direction, the controller vibrates. It's not perfect, but it does help you to get going in the right direction. Whenever you collect a treasure, the story progresses, and by that I mean the Dutchman kidnaps another one of your friends. This is kinda dark, and honestly it's my favorite aspect of the story. The Dutchman doesn't just stop after taking Gary, he slowly takes everyone around you one by one. The world starts to feel empty, and it creates a sense of urgency. This is honestly really cool, not only story-wise, but as a gameplay element, as it has a tangible effect on the player. Whereas once I would run into Patrick or talk to Squidward outside my house, suddenly they're gone completely, leaving only the remnants of where they were just moments before. This ghostly villain is turning your home into a ghost town. One of my other personal favorite bits of writing in this game is towards the end in the Dutchman's graveyard, where these pirates keep making booty jokes and it keeps getting funnier.
Oh, believe me, I have no interest in touching your booty.
Aren't you the one who's been digging around in my booty? It was probably the Dutchman again. His booty is bigger than anyone's, but he still comes out here to get his hands on even more. He just can't get enough booty.
Will you let me use your cannon if I bring you some fresh booty?
Sure. I think I saw some just kinda sitting around over there, if you catch my drift.
Y'all better stop playing with... Oh, Lordy!
I could barely get my hands around all that booty. I used to love worming my booty in this place, but now I have no booty at all.
So if I understand this correctly, you wouldn't turn down some new booty, even if it came wrapped in dirty, old canvas.
Everyone wants more booty, no matter what package it comes in. And I'd much rather be playing with my booty than guarding this old cannon.
If you don't at least get a chuckle out of that, then you have no soul. I kept making smug faces at my wife every time another pirate started making booty jokes, and her reactions were priceless. I wish I had recorded them. She couldn't help herself from laughing either. The game does a really good job at keeping you invested, but if all that's true, and the game really is as good as I say it is, then why do so few people talk about it? And why does everyone else seem to think so poorly of this game? Well, unfortunately for this game, only a year later in 2003, SpongeBob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom was released. Battle for Bikini Bottom was the single best SpongeBob game ever made, and I even consider it to be one of the best games ever made, period. It completely overshadowed Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, and was so good that it's been used to judge and compare every other SpongeBob game against its own legacy. And it's not a fair comparison. People often exaggerate the game's problems to an extreme, and act as though it's a stain on the history of gaming. But it's not. It's just not as good as the best there ever was, and that doesn't make it bad. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is a good game, and deserves to be given a chance. It's fun and charming and really feels like it was made with a passion for SpongeBob in mind. So many on the internet anymore have lost all sense of nuance when it comes to gaming. Either it's the best thing that ever was, or it's the worst thing that ever was. But why can't a game just be good? Does every game really need to have the best story ever told, or the most dynamic gameplay ever made, constantly pushing boundaries? Why can't a good game just be that? A good game. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and enjoy things for what they are. Which is why I believe SpongeBob Squarepants, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, is an underrated gem. Thank you all so much for watching. During the production of this video, I was actually made aware of the Game Boy Advanced version of this game, which I had never played before, so if you're interested in that, then let me know in the comments below. And please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video, it really helps me out. As always, I'm the OgichiGame, and I'll see you next time.